Do I break my rules for you? I break my rules for you. Took down my walls. Do I break my rules for you? It's hard to get used to. I can't do it like you do. It's a constant test to break through, and it's all like brand new. Do you make the time for love? You just wait for when the landslide comes. my rules for you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Mini RPG of the Week. Hearing your producer say, "Oh no," loudly in your ear right as you go live. It's worrying, but he hasn't said anything since. And so, G-Geek, I think we're in the clear. I think we're ready to go. It's week 22 of Mini RPG of the Week, and I'm pretty happy to be here. How about you?
Hello everyone, and yeah, it seems like we're pretty much broadcasting on the air, and yeah, I'm happy to go back to do some more Mini RPG of the Week. I had a grand old time last time around. I did it with Formal on no, not on Septembre 8, I think it was, the map from the Time Lost, and I'm looking forward to look at some more Mini RPG and a map that is looking pretty interesting, and that's going to be pretty technical to follow.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Nickel M coming back as it is the second week of the month. Of course, I say Nickel M coming back because it's the second week of the month. This is going to be the last time we see Nickel M as one of our resident mappers here on Mini RPG of the Week. Maybe he'll come back in future as, you know, a guest mapper, but unfortunately, just due to things getting busier in life, he's going to have to step away, and that means the second week of every month is now open to guest mappers, and that's going to be a lot of fun. It does mean more mappers to see in future, and it doesn't mean that we're running out of maps because we have plenty of those lined up into the future. Week 22, nearly 25 maps already, 25 maps being a full campaign. G-Geek, it's pretty impressive how far this competition has come at this point.
Yeah, it is pretty insane. I remember I was more lurking in like the first editions, but I remember stumbling upon your screen at one point. It was like maybe edition 3 or 4, and I saw the quality of the maps and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. And I really enjoyed the competition, and hence why I kind of also pushed forward a little bit on Twitter. But going back to the milestone, yeah, 25 is a pretty significant number. And as you said, full campaign, soon to be reached.
Yep.
Maybe that could be a great cause for celebration and for some events, maybe to mark the occasion? Question mark?
Yeah, great question mark. I guess we'll have to see about maybe setting up something for that in the near future. And hey, maybe keep your eyes out on the Discord in any places where information can be found about Mini RPG of the Week, and see if anything does get announced. That's all maybe that we can say for the moment. And we should talk a little bit more about this week's edition because the map is by Nickel M, and we will be heading on to it very shortly. As usual, 15 minutes warm up. Players will be seeing the map for the first time, will be seeing the map for the first time, and all of you at home will be seeing the map for the first time as well. After those 15 minutes of warm-up, we will just be playing a cup of the day style knockout with maybe a couple less players than we're used to here. The server seeming a little bit emptier than usual. I think Kaki might be coming to a close, and it sounds like some players might be off trying to hunt those maps a little bit.
Yeah, there's some of them might be going for like that silver, that gold finish or something like that, trying to get the landmark number of finishes. But as we know, like, it's always a little bit calm before the storm whenever we pick up, head onto the air for these Mini RPG of the Weeks. Sometimes people tend to come in at the 11th hour to just take part in this event.
I've just noticed that happening.
Yeah, as we see that, yeah, there are plenty of players that are currently joining, such as Babs and Mario City 9, to name a few. So yeah, it seems as though people are getting reminded, oh, right, there is the Mini RPG of the Week today. So yeah, why not join? And yeah, I feel like we're just going to be seeing the server getting a little bit fuller and fuller with every second passing.
Yeah, possible that the Cup of the Day ran a little bit long today. Who knows what happened either way? We're getting a few late trickle-ins, and as we head towards the ticking of the hour mark, we will see how many players do manage to join us for this 15-minute warm-up. We're loading onto the map now. We'll jump over there in a brief second. As mentioned before, this map is by Nickel M. The name of the map is Quarter Betaped. We really need to get a pronunciation guide from the mappers as well in future if they're going to start making words up. Don't try and translate it. I've just read the notes. I've been told not to try and translate it, G-Geek, and I don't know if we should be directing people to even go for it. Either way, the map is going to be a cube this week, and I love that. I always love a map where the mapper kind of challenges themselves to build in a constraint, you know, where they really look to use the space as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting concept, like doing like a like a sort of 1x4 or 4x4 map, doing something like that, going through a really confined space, which kind of emphasizes a notion of like the capabilities of like vertical mapping, like the vertical building of maps, which can also prove to do some pretty interesting things. And also, looking at the map's description, the map is based on transfers on road platforms and precision tricks on roads. So not only is it a vertical map, it's a vertical, somewhat technical map as well. There's going to be quite the amount of finesse that is going to be required to navigate it safely.
Absolutely. I mean, these kind of quarter pipes and things, they're going to be made to be look easy by our players here, but they are going to be tough to master. And I think especially in these 15 minutes, some of the players are going to struggle even to kind of get over the jumps, never mind learning the fastest ways through them.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'd want to go back onto the map name a little bit here, as we have a few notes from the mapper about this. The map was originally named Quarter Cubed before Unix actually tested it, but Cubes found so many cutscene routes that Nicolai actually felt obligated to block the walls, naming BTP. Now, this is very much a French reference. I'm gonna do that, get that out there. Public construction work is the most easy way to explain this. So it's basically like everybody pouring like thick slabs of concrete. You know,
Yeah.
why do I go for like full Jimmy Broadbent Dave Station when I say concrete? For the love of God. Yeah, no, but basically like trying to find like patches and just pouring a little bit of cement, concrete just to patch that up. Basically, hence why the BTP, because that's basically the French equivalent of doing that.
I see. That makes a little bit of sense. And yeah, I mean, I was desperately trying to Google it there in the background, and I could not come up with an answer.
It's obvious for Frenchmen like me, but to explain it to foreigners, it's always a little bit complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand now why Nicolem told me not to even bother trying to look it up, because, yeah, I mean, hey, it's a little bit tough to actually figure out. Either way, yeah, I deeply appreciate it. We are on board with Jan van Speek at the moment, who is trying to find his way through a map. A man who will be as confused at the name as I hope I will as well, as he's trying to figure out his way through. And again, we're seeing exactly what you were talking about earlier. You know, it is a lot of this vertical transfers. There's a lot of just managing your speed, managing your jumps, and just trying to find the best angles through it, because as you said, very transitional as a map, but jumping transitions, they're a lot harder to judge than kind of, you know, just easy flat transitions.
Yeah, flat to road, flat to grass, and even we saw positions on road. Yeah, trying to judge the alignment of your car on the grid is going to be very important, but trying to do that at speed is very difficult, especially coming off of a bank transfer, like a jump transfer like we've seen Jan van Speek doing, and trying to line that up as you're going at speed is definitely going to be one of the trickiest parts of this map, and I think we're going to be seeing plenty of chaos over the course of the night of competition, shall we say. Meantime, I think we should take a look at the local records. So far, only 7 players having finished the map so far, and the times are starting to tumble, as we saw Anix posting a 51.184 and then Hazard moving on to a 51.0. So slowly but surely times are coming down. And in terms of map times, in terms of round times, he expects a good time. Well, Nicolai expects a good time to be equaling the time of the GPS minus 1/2 of a second to 1 second. And if you remember correctly, he did a high 47. So mid 47 to high 46 would be a good time apparently.
Listen, I have the medals plug-in up at the moment. The author time is 47.718 seconds. I'm going to assume that's the time he drove on the GPS as well, because that sounds about right. So yeah, I think that seems entirely fair. About a 47.5, maybe down to about a 46 high. We have seen a lot of weeks where the players then go and absolutely destroy what the mapper thinks possible, but I think Nicolem has generally done a pretty good job of judging the difficulty of his maps, of figuring out where the players are going to end up, and they're struggling a little bit to approach it here. Nearly a third of our time gone already, and they're still a couple of seconds away from that author time.
Yeah, there's still a few, well, at least 3 seconds to catch up, at least for Hazard, 3.3 seconds more to be a bit more specific, as we see Jan van Speek going down the transfer, and then the finish a little bit towards the right-hand side there. But then you can see it's a little bit tricky, because you got a little bit of a magnet part, I think it seems. Yeah, it is definitely a magnet block, and then the magnet suddenly stops, and you have to actually judge your landing on the way down before you have to make your way up to the finish that's above, or maybe on the right-hand side, unless it's a bait finish. I might be talking out of my head on this one, but why not?
Yeah, it could be either, and I think we're going to have to wait a little bit before we can definitively say one way or another. I'm going to jump over and look at our current leader as well. I'm going to go and find Hazard on this leaderboard and see exactly what he's doing, because he has just started another run here, and it'll be interesting to see if we can get a look at what he's doing. I said that he crashed out as I was on board with him, but that just means he's starting another run, and when we jump over to him, we'll be able to see exactly what's going on, as he does try and navigate through this, and we're starting to see that, yeah, it's one of those maps where every turn requires you to set up for the next one as well. A mistake is going to snowball so quickly here.
Yeah, exactly. A mistake is going to cost you so much, especially when you consider the sometimes some of these transfers are, relatively speaking, speed checks, where you do need a certain amount of speed to be able to clear them up. Otherwise, it's definitely not going to work, and you're just bound to either be eliminated or be sent way far down the pack, a little bit too close to comfort. In the meantime, we go for the perspective of Hazard, and you can see him rounding up to CP6, and soon coming up into the magnet blocks for CP7, and then the run towards the finish, the magnet block ending there, and then you need to have enough speed and turn it sufficiently early so that you get enough air to clear the barrier to get to the actual finish. That's actually a really interesting, risky fin, and Hazard got really close to that fin. In the meantime, BMX is the first man to dip underneath the 51-second mark with a 50.7.
MX, definitely a player that we recognize here on this mini RPG of the week stream. He floats around, he does quite well week on week. I'm not really surprised to see him at the top of the leaderboard at this point of it, but as you say, there's a few players hovering around that point, the 51, and I say a few, it's literally two other players, Anix and Hazard, both just over the 51 seconds, and there's a bit of a gap behind them then. Not many players really pushing the top of the leaderboard, not many players really pushing that kind of leaderboard time at the moment.
Yeah, in the meantime, we're actually seeing the GPS run by Tunix, as we are currently seeing a run being driven in the same manner as Hazard has been done, with a little switch to cap number 3 for good measure coming up right now. There it is, going through the loop, and then well, through the loop, there's not really any loops, it's more of a really big transfer. Then coming up to this little bit of a angle transfer at a 45-degree angle, then make sure to balance on the white girder before moving on to CP number 5, then a little bit of a pass below the magnet block, a little bit of a wall bang there before the drop down into the dirt for CP6, and then the jump, make sure to get enough speed to clear that jump on the quarter pipe, and then CP7, make sure to land sufficiently early, with enough speed, and then turn early enough towards the the left-hand side. I'm confusing my right and my left, but yeah, turning sufficiently quickly to the left-hand side to actually clear the space between the barriers and the actual road, so that you can actually close out the round and head into the finish. In the meantime, Anix, when we're talking about that GPS run from Tunix, we're seeing the first runs into the 49s, 49.304 by Anix, who is now just 1.6 seconds there or thereabouts off of after time right now.
It's still a long way to go though. 1.6 seconds is a gap, and it's definitely going to take a little bit of time to get there, but I think we're going to see someone clear that before we get to the end of this time. One of the things that I'm liking about this map is there's a lot of very simple elements towards the end of it. You know, that white beam that you called out while we were watching the author time. There's a couple of places that are deceptively, I think, going to catch players out, especially in the middle rounds, because when you're riding on the edge, when you're just outside elimination, or when you're in the elimination zone, those are the kind of parts that you try to take at speed, that you try to risk a little bit on. And it's not a wide beam, you know, we're going to see players catch their wheels on the side, we're going to see runs off that, and I think we're going to see players lose because of that beam.
Yeah, indeed, but overall the map itself is going to be very tricky in those mid-rounds. It's definitely a map that's going to keep you on your toes. It's definitely not going to be a thing for some of the people that really want to make deep runs to try and to basically fall asleep in those middle runs, because whenever you feel like you're getting a little bit too confident, this is when the lapse of concentration kicks in, and then you end up making a stupid mistake, either taking the corner into a checkpoint a little bit too tight and then hitting the pillar of the CP, forcing yourself to respawn, and the respawn can be very punishing. So yeah, you have to be very careful, you have to remain alert. To quote a certain racing driver, you got to be alert on a mini RPG map, but yeah, it's definitely going to be a very, very tricky business to keep yourself awake and alert throughout this entire endeavor as we try to follow some of the big guns going for really, really deep runs tonight.
Trying to figure out what the Trackmania equivalent of if you see a gap and don't go for it, you're no longer a racing driver is. Because it definitely doesn't map one-to-one onto Trackmania. If you see a risky line and you don't go for it, you're no longer a Trackmania driver.
I guess you could do that. I mean, I'm more of a sucker for like naming things after players, but I feel like it can be a little bit of a stretch sometimes. So I prefer to stick to like motorsport analogies myself whenever describing certain things in the game. But in the meantime, we're seeing another couple of improvements with more people dipping into the 40 range, with Xeral moving up into the 49s as well, and then 3 people in the 48s with Hazard, Jura Jojo, and BMX all in the 48, and BMX so far the fastest with a 48.5.
8.5, still approaching that author time, not quite touching it yet. Reminder, for the author time around a 47.7 and some spare change on top of it. And we're running out of time for players actually to manage to get up there. I think, again, we do tend to see players manage to improve on those times as we continue throughout rounds as well. But with slightly less players than maybe we're used to here on Mini RPG of the Week, that just means less rounds for the top players to get comfortable by the time the pressure really gets on.
Yeah, could be. I mean, I feel like this map is definitely going to be a slow burner when it comes to like seeing the times tumble and tumble. I feel like we're going to be seeing maybe a little bit faster times, if not a fair bit faster than what we're seeing currently in the warm-up. At least that's the current gut feeling that I have, because, yeah, as you mentioned, people don't seem really to get to grips that quickly with the map itself compared to some of the other maps that have been in Mini RPG before. So I feel like as the game goes on and as the field starts to somewhat decay and the cream rises to the top, then I feel like we're going to be seeing even faster times. As we say that, we see Hazard almost dipping into the 47s with a 48.190. We're getting closer and closer to that AT now.
I think it'll happen probably before we get to the end of it here. I'm looking forward to seeing, as you say though, exactly how this map does play out, how far these players can push it, because there's a lot of room left in this map for players to do it. Any map that has this many quarter pipes, that has this many jumping transitions, there's time to shave off pretty much at any point. And it's one of those maps as well where I'm looking forward to seeing which players are able to recover, right? Because any map that has this many transitions that require you to carry speed from one jump to another, if you do make a mistake, that's going to snowball into your next couple of turns. And some players are going to be much better recovering from those kind of small mistakes than others are.
Yeah, people, it's really going to be key for people to identify what's actually the best way to actually somewhat salvage a failed transition. Like, okay, if I respawn and take this route, I can get enough speed for that particular speed check. Then that run could still be salvageable and I could still somewhat finish rather than being eliminated on the spot because of a dumb mistake I made. That's actually very, very important what you pointed out there, Nolan. Because, yeah, it's very... Being able to identify the ways with which you can recover is definitely going to be separating the good players from the great here on this particular map. And this is definitely going to be the key difference between winning or staying in the orange zone or being eliminated, basically.
It's going to be very exciting. I know we're currently watching Hazard on stream. My eyes are on BMX off stream, who I'm watching just do a style run where he does a 360 on every single half pipe that he goes for. And I don't know if that is going to be world record strats. It seems maybe unnecessarily risky, maybe a little bit slower. But hey, if you can pull that off in a round, I'll be impressed.
Hey, look at this. There we go.
This is fancy.
BMX getting into it. Very, very fancy. In the meantime, you were mentioning that we were going to see maybe AT happen before the end of the warm-up. Well, it happened, albeit by a very small margin. Hazard with a 47.701 versus a 0.718 for the AT time. So Hazard is the first to actually dip in the AT times.
Yeah, and as you say, small margins, but small margins are what win races, or what win rounds, and it's what wins competitions in Trackmania. That's all you need to win by. Win's a win. Of course, this is a win that won't ultimately count for anything, but hey, having confidence on the map, feeling more comfortable, and I think generally knowing what the best lines are, you feel a little bit better. I think, you know, if you know you can set a fast time, if you get to grips with every inch of the track, that is going to help you with the kind of recovery drives that we were talking about previously, you know. And ultimately, I think basically every driver over the course of a competition with a format like this is going to have to make a recovery drive at some point as well. It's very rare that someone keeps completely out of trouble, that you don't see at least a small mistake over the course of, you know, 15, 20 rounds. It's always going to take just a small slip of attention for drivers to need to do something to get their way back in. And knowing that you're fast on the track, feeling more comfortable, it's going to make you much better when the pressure is on in that sense.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we talked about being able to identify ways to recover whenever even if you're a little bit off of the pace of the very best guys. If you're able to find yourself, if you're able to extricate yourself from very difficult situations, for instance, a respawn that is very punishing and you have to pass a speed check, and being able to navigate that speed check cleanly, then it's a little bit of a weight that's getting off of your shoulders. It's like, okay, I've made that mistake. I know that I can actually recover from that, so it's a little bit more manageable. to actually be able to somewhat salvage runs rather than being in constant panic mode. Oh god, what do we do? What do we do? So yeah, it's definitely going to be very, very important to get that very much down to the wire. As we're currently following BMX, who is having a bit of trouble going into checkpoint 1 in that very first run. You guys kind of know the drill in these mini RPG of the weeks or Cup of the Day style competitions. First round is no KO, no eliminations. Everybody has a little bit of a chance to get one final warm-up round in the real conditions before we actually get ourselves kicking with the competition. 43 players having joined the server for today. That means 17 rounds of action for tonight.
And we'll see exactly how those do end up playing out. Looking forward to seeing. We're seeing a couple of good times come through. Only one player with an author time before this warm-up round started. Now there's two, as Comey manages to get author time by a decent margin in the first warm-up round here.
5.
And that's exciting to see. You feel pretty comfortable about that.
Yeah, pretty comfortable about that, and I suspect we're going to see those times tumble a little bit further because, as we mentioned, the good time could be would be a low 47 to a high 46, and I think that we could be actually seeing that in a few rounds' time. But in the meantime, I think it's time to get kicking, shall we?
Yeah, we might as well. I'm kind of impressed that Anix, who is sitting up in the top 5 for most of our warm-up, is still in 6th place, has only just noticed the hard fin. So, hey, signs of things to come, and maybe that's what's going to push the times a little bit lower. Doing the faster finish will get you across the finish line faster. That's your hot bit of wisdom here from Mini RPG of the Week. But that is going to be it for any of the warm-ups. Any of the warm-up rounds, either you drive the track well now, or you are gone. 43 players, 17 rounds. Mini RPG of the Week 22 kicks off now.
All right, here we go then, ladies and gentlemen, with the first round of the day, and we're currently following along with Nightly Volkia on the stream here, as apparently there were a few mistakes from some of the more regular players, including BMX, who was forced to respawn very, very early on at the first checkpoint. In the meantime, Volkia managing to navigate his way into CP number 2, trying to find him off stream. There he is, going through the transfer. And actually having to respawn, coming now onto the perspective of Lucis, going through the transfer, playing for Team Semper Fi. Then another jump before this really, really tight transfer. A little bit of a clip there so far. Lucis hovering around 36th position, 32nd position, so right in that butter zone, but not that far away from danger though, so he's got to be really careful.
Yeah, not that far away from danger, but pretty comfortable, as there are players who are struggling further down the field. My eyes are on Babsify, as well as Lucis is having a little bit of struggles up there, but in this first round there are some players who are still getting to grips with the map, who are struggling to even catch back up to where players that we're on board with are, and Babs is definitely just about climbed out of the danger zone, but took a lot of work to do it. I think at this point, if you finish, you are safe. The last I saw of Scotch Tape, who is the 43rd player at the moment, was sitting stationary at checkpoint 2, so just get to the finish line, you're gonna make it out of this round.
In the meantime, Babs getting overtaken by Yakosto and Koleo. In the meantime, he misses the risky fin. He's forced actually to respawn. There's Argicus a little bit higher up. This time he manages to make it through the risky fin. Argicus, in the meantime, falls off by the wayside. Oh no, that is unfortunate. Manages to reach the safe fin in 40th position though, so he's still in and lives to fight another day. Currently, Yorsh is the last man to have reached the finish in the meantime, and so we have our first 4 eliminations, so to speak, with the Turex, Scotch Tape, Jadon, and Seafill.
Yeah, I was still on board with Babs for the last round there, and I saw an interesting little thing, which is that on the risky finish, the actual finish is raised above the surface of the pool. So if you fall to the ground of the pool before you get there, it will take you an awful lot longer than if you just went for the safe finish. Just clearing the barriers in the first place is not going to be enough, so just keep that in mind. I don't expect to see it decide too many rounds, but it could come into play at some point. Speaking of Babs, he's struggling to get off the start line at the moment, is still trying to get to checkpoint 1 and will do so. What a huge W for the entire Irish community, as Babsify does manage to get there and immediately climbs back up into 40th place. He's actually on the hunt for Lucis at the moment, who isn't 39th, but pulling away quickly. There's another Irishman in his sight, Yorshmi Veloce, down here as well. Players are struggling to navigate these quarter pipes. I see Hazard down this far at the same time.
Yeah, Hazard, very much like Babs, has had a little bit of a rough time going through the storm, but manages to navigate his way past Haramis, and so moves up into 32nd position. Meanwhile, on stream, you're currently seeing Jungle Corp trying to navigate his way through the map, and trying to catch up to Axperial up ahead, although he has a little bit of ground to make up. Moving up to P39, following the mistake from Axperial, and full stop picks. He doesn't make the transfer. Oh no, that's really unfortunate, and manages to make it this time, albeit with a small clip. Though still stays in 39. This is going to be very costly if he cannot get some headway. Oh, the clip is so unfortunate at the end right there. Jungle Corp though in P35 thanks to the trials and tribulations of other players, and he manages to make it through the risky fin. Does he bounce into the finish? Yes, he manages to cross the beam. There we go.
Yep, that is that beam that I was talking about. It's a little bit high. It's a little bit tough. If you don't come in with enough speed, you're going to have to do a little bit of a pool climb over on the side. That's not exactly where you want to be. That last checkpoint, it caught an awful lot of players out. That was why we saw Jungle able to climb up about 5 places right on the last one. Fua is still trying to get towards that finish line, will get knocked out after a pillar bunk in the middle, and that will be down inside the top 40 players. Axperial getting knocked out as well. And that's already a few players getting knocked out who we would maybe expect to sometimes go a little bit further in the competition.
Yeah, some players, I'm mainly referring to the Black Bulls in this sense, trying to go for, which we're expecting to go for like a bit of a deeper run. Unfortunately, getting knocked out very early, so this map does take a lot of casualties and takes no prisoners. That's for sure.
Already, it's brutal. We saw Hazard, the player second on the leaderboard, getting stuck near the first couple of checkpoints for a little while on the last round. I wouldn't be too surprised if we continue to see something similar over further rounds, as we are seeing this start continue to claim the life of Jean René. The Sun player is getting a little bit stuck there. Will make it over the start line, but still will only make it to this second checkpoint ahead of 2 players, and Yorsh is slow.
Yeah, Yorsh has had a bit of a howler, hasn't he? He has been completely flunking the CP and actually ate the pillar of the CP right away and did a little bit of a barrel roll. I mean, that's style points for sure, but not exactly what you want to actually pull off. In the meantime, we were following along with Jean René a little bit earlier on. You can see now the perspective of Yorsh, who is finding himself in 34th, but now has to navigate this transfer. Can he make it? Has just enough speed to actually clear it pretty smoothly, though he actually has a bit of a full stop in the sign before that little wall ride with reactor boost, and he finds himself tagging along with Nightly Volkia to actually get the game a 33rd, 34th, and now there's a Ramis going by, although Yorsh is going to be pretty safe so far. He's going to go for the safe pick, but full stop picks into the sign! Oh no, Volkia has passed him into 34th. We see plenty of people full stop picking since, and Yorsh still makes it in 33rd, past to Ramis for good measure. And Ramis is going to be your last remaining player to be in the competition. Jungle Corp, Aziris, Bazut, and Komi, who was holding the fastest time up until this point, has been eliminated. Apparently, there might have been an issue with Komi, unfortunately, still standing at the start. And in the meantime, Anix, we were a bit silent about it, but Anix, 47.3, we're diving into that range that we were talking about earlier for good times. We're dipping into the low 47s right now.
Yeah, Anix, as far as I remember, was having a very strong week last week and then dropped out just outside the top 10. I'd have to double check the VOD for that. Nobody call me up on it if I'm wrong, but we'll have to see if he can do a little bit better this week in terms of just keeping the cool, managing to get through these rounds, because we've said it a couple of times already. This is a map that will punish even the slightest mistake from players in the middle rounds. If you do just drop out a little bit, we've already seen very good players getting caught on checkpoint 1 repeatedly. Komi, I think, just his mum walked into the room and told him dinner was ready. It's hard, who knows? But he was just stationary on the start. We won't call that unfortunate, other than if it's an internet issue. But we will see how these players manage to get on in the next few rounds.
Yeah, and you saw we were talking about checkpoint 1 and chaos ensued just as you talked about it. We saw Jean-René and Iramis both clinging onto the edge of the block just before crossing checkpoint number 1, both having a bit of a really, really tough start, as we're currently following along with Jam TM a little bit further up ahead, trying to go for that transfer, but now we were back with the perspective of Iramis, who had a bit of a rough start. 31st position, he sees Volkia currently sitting in 30th. That's currently the target for safety for Iramis. The next question is, can he make it fair and square, or does he have to rely on a mistake from Volkia? It seems as though it's a bit of a combination of both, as he has a much better reactor boost spark compared to Volkia, moves up into P28, manages to clear the transition before the magnet part now onto the risky fin. Can he actually clear it and cross the beam? It seems to be the case. And Yorsh, unfortunately, will be out of this race, along with Jean-René and Alex Raccoon, as well as Volkia. Unfortunately, plenty of losses in the French side, and I gotta make a special mention to Alex Raccoon, a very good French caster in his own right as well, who is having a little bit of trouble navigating the map, but it is all good. He was looking for his first participation, I think, in Mini RPG of the Week, if I'm not mistaken, and he will end the day in P33 as a result of a DNF from Jean-René. And Yorsh, can he cross the finish? No, that respawn is going to cost him dearly.
Hey, look, we're no strangers here on Mini RPG of the Week to casters dropping out around the 30th place. It's something of a tradition. You know, I'm talking about Orion, I'm talking about maybe Mockfish, a couple of faces that we're missing this week, but I'm sure they're off doing something very important. I'm sure they're off being very busy. It's the loss of a few players that we've been keeping eyes on in the last round, but we'll see if any of them can continue to make it further now as well. As it's getting a little bit exciting here, seeing how these players can manage to navigate as players get a little bit more consistent overall of these transitions as well. Who will manage to keep their cool? Who will manage to get across these checkpoints? It's hard to say, as there's some players, you know, Aramis is one, that last round performance, he's been very fast on the middle and the back half of the map. He's just not been doing well on the start half, and I think if we keep eyes on him, he's back down at the bottom again off the start. Once he gets past checkpoint 2, he's fine. He might not even get past checkpoint 2 this time around, though.
Yeah, that might be a little bit of a tough going for Aramis this time around, who's way further than he would like to be. Currently sitting in 29th, even 6 seconds away from even making it to safety in 26th position. So yeah, it looks as though it will be a pretty premature exit for the player from Team Nelasta, along with Mary and Yekosto, who's also having a bit of a rough going. Unfortunately, the Portuguese driver from Team Wombo having a bit of a howler in this round. Meanwhile, Aramis trying to navigate his way through to the finish line. He goes for the risky fin. Will he be able to cross it? And with that, oh no, he got sniped by Babs! He got sniped by Babs right at the end! No way!
He got sniped by Babs and by Sapphire. It was two of them getting across that line. Oh, that's heartbreaking, because I was about to praise Aramis again. Once again, the back half of the map was so much stronger from them, from almost anyone else. I mean, they've been quicker through that back half than pretty much anyone else on the track. Except then the risky finish destroys them. They get sniped out at the very end by the Irish player. I mean, I can't be too upset about it. We love to see Babs continuing to stay in, but that's a rough way to end.
Props to Babs, but you got a feel for Aramis. Yeah. That is painful. Also, among the other players that were knocked out, Yekosto, of course, we were mentioning, and also it was Lingo, under the nickname of Keep Practicing, who kind of gave up on the map a little bit earlier on, not really feeling like it. So, yeah, unfortunately, we lost a pretty strong player in that particular sense. In the meantime, Babs, we were talking about him with the godly snipe that we saw a little bit earlier in the last round. Unfortunately, for this round, not really looking too hot, as we are already done with the first third for Babs, and he's 14 seconds down on the leader and some 7 seconds down on safety, currently being held by Hazard, who is having a bit of a shocker at the moment and trying to find his way back up the order. Although so far for Hazard, he manages to keep himself in that little bit of a really nice layer, as we see a little bit of a shuffle around the pack with Holo trying to go for the safe fin, and he manages to reach that safe fin. Yog managing to reach it. Anix as well. No, Anix actually got sniped by Melio. Melio sniping Anix. Anix is completely out of it, failed the risky fin, and our man from Pays de la Loire, I think it is, the tag that I recognize, is going to be out of the running, along with Arcano, Babs, and Cardio. Now, I mentioned the tag because he's actually one of the players partaking in the French regional tournaments, and got a pretty solid run with that team up until the end of the Swiss round, where unfortunately it would have resulted in P5 or something like that for the team, therefore locking them on the playoffs. But that's a completely different discussion. Now we're on to another round, following along with Hazard, who this time seems to make this start pretty cleanly. Not exactly the case for some of the other players, such as Joao Jojo, Coleo, Jam, and Mary, who are having a little bit of a shocker right now.
Yeah, the French player Loading Mary has been down near the bottom a couple of times, but consistency has been getting him across the line. We'll see how that continues to go. Jojo down here as well, also looking for a way back into this round, and already I think we're starting to see the players who are a little bit more consistent now starting to drop towards the bottom of places. Just one mistake starting to look like it might cost you in rounds completely. Jojo is trying to make those places back. We see him gaining on Yog and has managed to climb back in, but it's between him and Mary, and there is Yog crashing out as well. There's a couple of places available now for these players at the finish line as long as they can get across safely. There goes Mary crashing out, though. That means Jojo across the line. Mary is trying to get up the wall of the pool. Will get there. Maybe Colo is crashing out as well.
Chucky!
And it's all just gone terribly wrong for these players.
Oh, Coolio actually, Chucky failed and Coolio was sniped.
Oh.
Coolio was sniped for just 500s. What the hell?
It's a mess.
Oh,
Mary
my
was
God.
genuinely trying to perform a climb up over that finish line for the last 10 seconds of that round.
I know this might be weird coming out, but you have no idea how hard I'm trying to refrain from using curse words. But my God, this map is making it difficult.
You can curse a little bit here, like a little bit.
Yeah, but I was trying to refrain as much as possible because my God, that was quite something, eh?
Yeah, that was sure around. Things sure did happen, and we'll see them continue to happen here. As I can't believe who got there. I was desperately trying to figure out who was there, and ultimately I just ended up watching Mary try to climb. It was very sad, like trying to watch a tortoise get off the back of its shell. I think is how I described that. But look, that's no longer relevant as Mary's no longer here, and it was a little bit tough. We're on board with Vinch as he tries to make his way back out of the bottom. And like I said in the last round, I think we are starting to see things get a little bit more consistent now, but we are seeing that end can still claim lives. Vinch is going to hope not to be one of the victims this time around. He's managed to overtake a few players. He'll be up into fairly safe positions on this, but still needs to get across the line safely. That's a bad jump, and Vinch will manage to still get across. A Yogg, though, still down near the back. Will he manage to snipe anyone at the end? It's a good bounce. He'll get across the line, but it's only good enough for 16th place. As the players in front, they're getting a little bit cleaner, less mistakes at the finish line at this point.
Yeah, it's starting to really come together. Starting to kind of gel. Players are starting to get their feeling for the map and where they can actually push somewhat safe and can actually really try to get some good time without really taking too much risks. As we're seeing Lucis, Phoenixo, Yogg, and Negojim get out of the way. We're down to 14 players remaining already. So yeah, we're starting to see the pressure rise a little bit. And we were seeing an unfortunate early exit for Enix, but before that, he actually got himself in the fastest time of them all, 47.266, right in the butter zone of half a second past the author time that we were talking about at the beginning of the night. Meanwhile, we're following along with Punk QZ, trying to find his way into the top 12, currently with finding along with Monjoie. Sorry, this is very much a French thing. I don't think I'm going to translate that, but yeah, just seeing that as a Frenchman, really, it never ceases to amuse me, those kind of really imaginative names. In the meantime, at the bottom too, we find Melio and BMX having a little bit of a rough time, unfortunately, for themselves. We see BMX trying to catch up to the men up front, as we had Pump-On having a bit of a shock, allowing BMX to move up into P10 and even P8 as a result of the finish. And in the meantime, let's see who else can actually make some pretty good finishes. Melio moving up into 10th place. Punk-On 11th. Can Vinch make it into P12? Yes. No, actually got sniped by Flo. No, Flo actually crossed the line 1.5 seconds ahead. Wow, I thought that was a snipe, but no, it was miles before that. So yeah, Vinch and Monjoie, Jesus. Both are going to be getting out.
I thought you said you weren't going to curse on stream, huh? Yeah. No, it's fine. It's not quite cursing. It's a soft one. No, it's fine either way. I was impressed there. Pun just chose to full safe it at the end and absolutely turned out to be the right decision, as once again that pool finish claims a couple of lives. People just not quite able to get across the line despite putting themselves in a good position over what is a brutally hard map up until that point anyway. And hey, safing all the way towards the finish, definitely an option, and we'll see how that continues to go. We did see Marius join the server. I'm not sure Marius is still here, but the Safe Meister himself, I think some of those players could learn from him right now. Just safing towards the finish is the way to go.
Yes, indeed, as we witnessed a bit of a rough start from BMX, but thanks to the trials and tribulations of some other people, including Coleo, he's able to move back up into the wars for 10th position. And Sapphire having a bit of a shocker transition into the transfer there, allowing BMX to move up into P10, and Coleo hitting the side of the scenery blocks right past the water part, so that will allow PMX up into P9, and Maurice is indeed still in, moving up into second position past Jojo at the moment, and it looks like Hazard is going to be moving into the wars. Oh, BMX has completely flunked it. Meanwhile, Coleo trying to salvage from that. Look at Coleo trying to go. No, both are actually full, still picking it there. Coleo moving up into P9. Punk-On makes it through to the finish.
It's messy. All right, it's messy. It's hard to tell who's where. I watched Colio crash, and I was like, that's it, he's done for. And then it didn't matter because there was players respawning behind him, and BMX and Sapphire, ultimately the biggest losers in this round, 11th and 12th. And that means they'll be just outside the Liquipedia page as well. I mean, look, outside the top 10. It's a very sad place to be. It's sad to go out in that fashion as well, but that does mean we're into the top 10. 2 more rounds of double eliminations, then we're into the single eliminations. It's only going to get harder from here, but I also think we're going to see less and less mistakes. There's some players who, as I mentioned, we just really haven't seen on stream at all yet. Marius, one of them. I think Hazard, we've only seen, well, a couple of times. He's been floating around down there. Hollow, we haven't really seen at all. These are players who, they've just been keeping it safe the entire way through G-Geek. They haven't needed to be near the bottom because they're just playing the map well.
Yeah, they were in no rush of actually trying to push for really big times. Indeed,
well,
so far they're just going to be looking to actually get through there. But Marius is, oh yeah, I thought I was looking at the splits. I'm like, it's not too bad. And then okay, and Pompon is an even worse situation right now. So yeah, Marius and Pompon definitely not looking too hot on paper. Even less hot when you can actually compare the gaps over to Hazard and Melio, who are currently battling for P6, P7, and P8, along with Jan van Spijk a bit further up ahead. But yeah, Marius. That's pain. That's actually really painful for Marius. We know him for being so safe Meister, although, as we say, he's actually catching up big time. He's getting on Jan van Spijk, so just a little bit of a hairy moment at the ending for Jan, and that could give position 8 for Marius. We'll have to see what that goes like at the ending. And it looks as though Jan will be P7, P8. Oh, that was really close, though. Look at the gap between Melio and Marius. 0.07, I think I'm right in judging that in terms of thousandths of a second. Even just like a tenth away. My god, that was close. Unfortunately for Pompon, a really, really rough round for him, so he's going to be out of the running, and we're already down to the top 8.
Yeah, listen, I think given how much time Pun spent with the screen flashing red, how much time they were in the elimination zone, you got to be happy with the 10th, right? You held on for much longer than maybe you had any right to. I'll apologize again. I definitely cursed Marius on that round, saying we hadn't seen him down near the bottom. The Safe Meister was doing his thing. He was safing his way around, and it was going to be a map where that paid off. And makes a couple of mistakes on those early checkpoints. We said that they'd been causing problems early. We didn't expect them maybe to be causing that many problems this late in the competition, but Marius will ultimately drop out. Meliu, I think, went for the safe finish. We'd have to double check the tapes, but is going to be happy that it paid off, because it was way closer than maybe he would have expected when he went for it, and is now in a rough position. Has made a clip early on.
Yeah, along with Jan van Spijk that we're currently seeing on screen right now. Oh, that was a really bad transfer from Jan. Well, really bad jump overall. Completely misjudged the alignment there, and he's going to be sent down in the depths of the last place. 5 seconds down on the leader. So far, needless to say that it looks pretty grim for Jan van Spijk. Meanwhile, a little bit further up ahead, Jojo trying to battle for survival right now, along with Flo, Kaleo, and Melio. Hello, that's a really bit of a tasty fight as we're heading towards the finish right now for Jojo. He's right behind Flo. Is he going to be able to snipe him? Oh, actually, yes, because Melio has actually completely failed to finish, and he's going to be getting out by less than 0.2 of a second, along with Jan van Spijk. Man, Jojo living to fight another day, and actually making it to the single elimination phase.
That's I'm not sure. Did Meliu go? He's completely failed. I don't think he went for the safe fin. I think he just failed the risky fin. I missed it entirely because I was too busy giggling, if I'm honest, about what Marius wrote in chat there. I don't know if anyone noticed, but Marius said that what happened on the last round was he actually did checkpoint 1 twice, because you do loop back around after checkpoint 1 to go to checkpoint 2. And apparently he just drove to checkpoint 1 again.
Drove to checkpoint. Oh no. Oh, that's unfortunate. Unlucky.
Very funny though. That's an excellent way to drop out.
I mean, you can't deny it's funny, but still, like, that's not something you definitely want to do. I mean, you can't blame Marius for that. I mean, it can happen very much to anybody, so... Yeah, in the meantime, in that round, we're following along with Koleo. Well, we were following along with Koleo. Now we're following along with Flo, who's just behind Koleo and Jojo. Now, remember, we're only at the last place worthy of a knockout, so Flo is going to try to battle tooth and nail to try and safeguard his place into that top 5 and fight for another round, as he's followed closely by Koleo, repping his Centre Val de Loire clan tag right now. Koleo moving up ahead, but completely flunking at the finish. Oh no, and we have actually witnessed the exit of one of my teammates. Xerard from the Bretagne team has completely missed the fin. Oh my goodness, that's really unfortunate. C'est terrible ce qui s'est passé là.
C'est terrible. En fait. Yeah,
Yeah,
my French is flawless.
Yeah, just for context, we're playing in the same team for the French regional tournament. That's why I said one of my teams.
Yeah, you know, that's fair, and definitely not the kind of mistake you want to be seeing. I do love this risky finish for the fact that if you get it wrong, we see the players bounce off and then shamefully have to try and climb back up. It really adds to the moment of humiliation on stream, and I think you can replay that clip for him a couple of times during, you know, the scrims when you're practicing to be like, hey, remember this? It was tough. Meanwhile, though, things are tough for Flo as he is trying to get his way back into this round. It's 4 seconds adrift. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to catch up to the rest of the field. I'm jumping on board with Kolio. There has been a mistake. Jura Jojo crashes out, and that means Flo, with a chance to get back in, will have overtaken Jura Jojo back into this next round. Jura Jojo a long way back down the field now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't really discount Jojo to Flo or Jojo too quickly, because anything can happen on this map. I mean, it's very much a casualty map, as I like to refer to it now, as we're already coming towards the end of the round for some of the faster players. Jojo, though, is not really going to be able to salvage that one, is he? It's going to be very much the exit for him, 2.1 seconds down. After a bit of a rough round, Flo, Hazard, Holo, and Kolio live to fight another day. Meanwhile, Jojo, I think he will be pleased with that top 5. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we're at the point of the competition where it still feels bad to lose, right? Because you've come far enough that the win is in sight, right? You know that you can match these guys on pace at this point, and so it's maybe a little bit disappointing. I think any of the exits we've seen on this map will feel disappointing because they basically always come down to a crash rather than pace. But, you know, I mean, still, 5th is a very good feeling. It's still a very good place to be. Top 4, though, as we get towards the podium positions.
Top 4 as we get to the podium, and Flo actually going for a little bit of a higher line compared to everyone else, as we saw Kolio going for the lower line, and unfortunately having to respawn that particular round, so he's been forced out of the way, so to speak, with that particular mistake. He's 4.7 seconds down on the leader, 3.6 down on Flo, who's currently safeguarding at 3rd place as hard as he might right now, as we're seeing Holo and Hazard a little bit further up ahead, stretching the gap. The gaps have stretched quite a significant bit now that we had a little bit of a reduction in player numbers. Oh, Flo, that clip is so unfortunate. Kolio is going to take an opportunity to go to the risky fin and take 3rd place away from Flo with that single one fell swoop of a corner. P4 for Flo, but it could have been oh so much better for the player from Team Loading.
The last jump and just over jumping it as well. Too successful in making that jump, and the wheels fall off the other side and the wheels fall off the bus completely for Flo on that one. Again, 4th place, nothing to sniff at, but that's the kind of mistake that you're thinking about in an hour's time, in a couple of hours time, because hey, it was so close to not being at. We would have had 2 loading players on the podium, would have looked pretty good. Right now, though, it is 1 player still from loading. Holo, Kolio, and Hazard are the podium for this week. Where do they line up? Hazard is the player chasing, and I'd be a little nervous if he was chasing me on this map.
Yeah, I think anyone would be actually very nervous if Hazard was actually chasing him down, given the pace of the man in this mini RPG of the weeks, and currently managing to rob Kolio of that 2nd position right now, just before we head into the final sector. In those final few sections, he's actually catching a big time on Holo. Look at this, trying to make a move for the lead, as Kolio right now is trying to make himself through the rounds, and Holo has actually completely fallen off the finish and is going to be allowing Kolio to move through, or is he? Where is Holo? Did Holo actually retire?
Holo crashed.
Oh,
he
Holo
crashed completely.
out.
And he's falling off the side of the map, and that means Holo's gone. Holo's gone. Kolio's through.
I thought I was following Kolio, but no, I was actually following Holo. Oh my goodness, you gotta feel from the man from Team Loading there.
That last jump claimed to the lives of both loading players in the top 4.
Yeah. Now, this is very much a battle of the nations. France versus Denmark. Who from Kolio or Hazardu is actually going to be coming away as the winner for this 22nd edition of Mini RPG of the Week. We're already underway with the final round right now, both going for a very low line, as we see Hazard trying to catch up a little bit on Kolio, but we know he's very strong in that middle sector. A little bit of a clip from Kolio, but that's fine. He manages to get away with it and keep the gap within a 1/4 of a second. Now onto the transfer through the banking like that, but look at Hazard. The line is so much more direct. He moves up into the lead past Kolio as we move on to the 3rd and final sector. A little bit of a wall bank through the reactor boost for Kolio, trying to catch up to Hazard, but right now the Danish player is actually very much on the really looking good round as we're heading toward the final few corners, the drop down, and then the risky fin. It's going to be good enough for Hazard with a 48.099, still a decent-ish time for race pace to close things out, and he will be your winner for edition 22 of Mini RPG of the Week on quarter BTP'd by Nicolame.
Yeah, I mean, just an incredibly strong performance by Hazard all around this week as he gets the best time on the server at the end. He wins the match as well, and he looked comfortable doing it. He did, we have to be, honest about it, have some shaky rounds in the middle there, Geek. He was near the back of the pack a few times. We were maybe a little bit nervous, but he was able to keep it clean when he needed to, get the back half of the map cleanly, overtake the players he needed to. And ultimately, he manages to come away from the win. But a big performance by Kolio. Big week for loading as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of loading players in this competition.
P4,
and
P3,
this is definitely P3, P4. It's very strong. There was another couple of their players up near the top half of the competition as well. I think as a team, they can probably be pretty happy with how this week went in general.
Yeah, I feel like they got to be pretty happy with it. We also saw Phoenix, one of their new recruits, also partaking in there. I think he made it run up until like top 30 or top 40. I can't really remember. But yeah, of course, Flo and Holo having a really, really solid run up until this point. And we were mentioning Hazard having a little bit of a shaky start from the mid rounds, but I got to say, shaky start on this map was pretty much par for the course for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't get over how Marius went out. It's the safe meister, right? I mean, and he was being so safe that he just made sure he drove checkpoint 1 twice.
We cursed him real hard.
Real hard, yeah. Somehow managed to do it. He did say he was talking to Lars, so maybe we can pass some of the blame onto Lars, take it off ourselves. That seems fair enough to me.
Let's do 50-50. Racing incident and nothing more.
Racing incident, no penalties for anyone involved. Sounds good to me.
Exactly.
And that's going to be it for week 22 of Mini RPG of the Week. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined it. As I kind of mentioned, alluded to at the top of the stream, we are coming up on week 25 of Mini RPG of the Week. That is 25 maps, a campaign in Trackmania terms. And hey, we have an eye on that as well. And so maybe we'll have some news for you over the coming couple of weeks on exactly what that means for Mini RPG of the Week. Keep your eyes on the Discord. Keep your eyes, I don't know, on Twitter. Just keep your eyes on the sky. Who knows? Maybe the bat signal will go up. Either way.
Keep your eyes wherever you're looking at, basically.
Exactly. Keep them in your head. That's, I think, probably the best idea in general. G-Geek, thank you very much for joining me again. A pleasure having you on.
Well, my pleasure. My pleasure to actually oblige for Mini RPG of the Week. And yeah, had a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to Drizzly behind the scenes for doing production. Thank you to everyone who maps for the competition. Of course, as always, get in contact with Zetorite if you have an idea about building a map for Mini RPG of the Week. And we will see you all back here next week for edition 23. Thanks again for joining us.
Damn fool.